Hey everyone, so I wanted to show you how to go from a simple link on your web page to something that looks more like this, like a button that changes color when you hover over it. Okay, so this is by default what the anchor tag looks like when you put it on your page. Now I have an anchor tag here that says click for Google Classroom. Okay, and when I've added this piece of code into the anchor tag called target equals blank. That's just nice for me because when I click it, it opens up a new tab and it doesn't overwrite the tab that I'm in, which is, I like always find that really annoying because then I have to go back and get the tab that I'm in. So here I have this little piece of code and then I have this anchor tag, and by default it usually comes up as blue, but since I've clicked it before, the visited color turns out to be purple, which I can actually change if I want to. So if I go into the style, I clearly already have some style on my page. Notice that like the purple doesn't really work for me for this page because it's not contrasty enough. The text is too small. Like I just really want to change it. And I've already changed it here in this other page to make it look a little bit better for my website style. So I want to get this to look like the one that I just showed you. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is just go and style out the anchor tag by putting A in there. And then let's give it like a font color. Okay, now I've chosen a color palette. So I'm going to use the color of the font to be this nice white color here. So I'll put a hashtag and I'll paste that color in there. Okay, I also want to give it a background color. Now I chose a background color. I chose this one right here so that it would pop against my Vivid Tangerine, which is the color for my page. So I'll go and say background here and I will paste the color that I have in, right? So this is what I have so far, right? Now I want to make it look like a button, which means that I want to make the little box that it sits in bigger. The way that I do that is I can add padding. So let's add 20 px of padding and run that. Okay, so that looks good, except the buttons usually have rounded corners. So I can achieve that by saying border radius right here. So let's put a border radius of like 15 px and see what that looks like. Okay, so notice it just rounded my every single corner of my button, right? I could get a different rounding if I just put in two values, and that would round 15 would be the upper left and the bottom right, and 30 would be I believe that's how it's doing it. 30 would be this one and this one right here. But for me, like you can make them whack. You can even put in four values if you want here and see what that looks like. And I believe, I don't know the order in which it goes, but that's something that you could look up. But for me, I just want to go with a simple 15 px like that. And that will round everything as 15 pixels. Now, let's see. What I want to also do is, so I've achieved the look of the original hover. I think I also put in like a Google font for my look. So if I wanted to, I had Lato picked out. Remember that this goes into the HTML after your original line. It looks like I've already put it in there. So this is the entire link right there. So you always put that after your link to your style sheet right here. And then this one would go into the CSS. So here I put that into the CSS. Okay. So I have that. I could change, the font size if I wanted to and make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Now, if I want to change what it looks like when I hover over it, I say A:hover. Okay, so this just only changes the anchor tag as I hover over it. So in this color palette, I have the option of choosing some more shades. So I can make it like a shade that's lighter, right? So let me grab this, and I want to say background. So I'm going to put like a lighter shade here. Okay. And what happens is as I run it, it changes like what it looks like. And that's, it's nice style-wise to do that, but it's also nice for accessibility so that people who have difficulty telling whether or not they've clicked on something, like, sometimes it's really hard for people to see the mouse and there's a way for you to actually increase the size of your mouse. But it also becomes hard for people to see whether or not they're hovering over the right tag. So if you have like a bunch of these tags, it's hard to tell, like, oh, am I clicking on the right tag? So if you make your anchor tag bigger and look like a button, and you change the style of it as you hover over it, that makes it so that someone can see whether or not they're actually hovering over it. You could change like a bunch of different properties for it. You could change the font size for it too. So I think this works. Let me see. Yeah. So if you change the font size, it's going to actually make the button get bigger. Okay, you could change the color of it. So instead of having it be this color, you can have the font color be like maybe Misty Rose here. So you could take that off and put that there. There's a bunch of different things that you can change as you hover over it. So here the font color changes to that. You could put a text shadow in there to the A hover. There's just a lot of things, a lot of properties that you can change when you hover over the button. But the most important thing is, you're doing it for style, but you're also doing it for accessibility, so that people who have visual impairment can go to your web page and feel comfortable when they're accessing the features of your web page. Okay, so have fun with this feature.